We got 10 questions, and
Perfect.
let's have some fun. Sting,
Perfect.
you know what to do?
Yes, sir.
Oh, by the way, do you know that Stingray, SEC superfan, Comedy Central, Paul Feinbaum, SEC Network?
Oh, I know Paul. I don't know Paul, but I've watched it. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's Stingray. You know, remember the videos, Hell State. Anyway, all right. And Bill's
You SCPC people do not let anything go. You hang on to it forever.
Yes. Is
it that desperate down there, really? You could be like me. You could be a Texas fan and haven't been relevant in the last 12 years. So,
man, that's awesome.
I have a buddy that every time he sends me an email, he ends it with "Roll Tide." I'm about to block him.
All right, Sting, are you ready?
I'm good to go, my friend.
Sting, here we go.
So, Sting, go ahead and open us up. You know what to do.
Yes.
This is legendary Bill Engvall, so no pressure.
No pressure, none. To another exciting edition of the CTS Interview Room. I am your host, Stephen Ray, aka Stingray from the SEC Network and the Paul Feinbaum Show. But let me go on ahead and pull up my co-host, the founder, Joey. Joey, how are you doing today, sir?
Stingray, it's always a pleasure to be with you, my man. How you doing today?
Dude, I'm excited about our guest today, and I know you are going to be as well. He is a Grammy-nominated, multi-platinum selling recording artist. He is going to be replaying his role as Reverend Paul on Last Man Standing, and he coined the phrase, "Here's your sign." Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Bill Engvall. Mr. Engvall, how are you doing today, sir? And first off, let me say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Well, Stingray, you're more than welcome, and thank you for having me on the show. Not quite sure a podcast has to be done at 6:30 in the morning, but I'm sure someone somewhere has a good reason for it.
Absolutely.
That's Ann's fault. That's your people.
So where are you? Which time zone are y'all on?
Central.
Oh, okay, all right. Anyway, it's great. It's great to be here. Big fan of Paul's show. I'm a little over the SEC right now. I got to be honest with you. I mean, my God, could Alabama win just a little more? Because it's. Yeah. I really think we got to go to an 8-team playoff. I'm a big fan of that. Actually, no, for me to get Texas in, it'd have to be a 32-game playoff. So let's just do that.
Obviously, the final episode of Last Man Standing is February the 18th. But can you tell us a fun story that happened during the recording between you and Tim Allen, please?
Well, what a lot of people don't know is that Tim's wife, Nancy Travis, on the show, played my wife on my show, Bill Engvall. So whenever I go back, it's always like I feel like I'm getting one over on him. But Tim is, and I always ask him, I said, so how do you like the idea of doing my show? Isn't it great? But I tell you, the whole experience has just been so much fun. Tim is hysterical. I did an episode not too long ago where it was me, Tim, and Jay Leno all on the same show, and it was literally just a joke-a-thon. The director, I thought, was going to lose his mind because when right in between takes, someone would jump in with a joke, and I tell you, I've known Tim, since the old stand-up days back in the clubs, and he's just such a solid guy. He says what he wants, and I'm always fascinated. I was fascinated every time I go to do the show that every week he and Jay, I think they have a competition to see who's got the most classic cars.
Right. Well, can you give us a little preview of what this episode is going to be about?
Oh, sure. Yeah. This episode is because Kyle is heading to the ministry. It kind of becomes a tug of war between Reverend Paul and Bill of getting Kyle to do stuff for us and with us. And in the end, what happens is that Tim and I both realize that we're the jerks and Kyle's the good one. So their writing staff does such a great job with storylines. And I really like this one. This one was a lot of fun because I would love to do a show before they leave if it was really intense on Tim's character and my character, because my character is the only one that can really go toe to toe with him.
Yes. Well, with this being the last season of Last Man Standing, can you kind of tell us a little bit about the emotions on set?
Oh, it's always sad. I tell you what, it's weird, Stingray, is that it's a mixture of joy and sad, because you've done the same show for 9 years, 10 years, whatever. And then he had Home Improvement that lasted 30 years or whatever it was. You're excited that something's coming to him, but you're also sad because these people become your family. You see them every day. And that was, I know when I was shooting my show on TBS, when we ended, it was sad. You wake up the next day and you're not going to work, and you're like, oh wait, why are we not? Which I'll tell you a funny story about the show business, the television industry. To this day, nobody has told me that the Foxworthy show has been canceled, and that was in 1990, I think. But when you're on the air, man, they're giving you gifts. They're like, hey, you walk in the room, there's a new stereo or a TV or whatever. They cancel that show. I told Foxworthy, we ought to just keep showing up at the studio gate going, hey, where are we shooting today? And have somebody go, has nobody told them they're being canceled?
I'm a big fan back in the Blue Collar Comedy Tour days. Can you tell me how all that got started?
Yeah. Well, you'd had the Kings of Comedy go out, which was a massive tour. And Jeff and I had the same manager at the time. And, we knew that we had, there was a huge part of the demographic that had been not overlooked, but just not serviced. And that was our fans. And so we decided to put together this tour. And I'll tell you a funny story is that it was supposed to be 10 shows, and it ended up going almost 5 years. It was the perfect storm, Joey. It was, you had 4 headliners. The show was clean, so anybody could come see it. But the story was that our first show was supposed to be in Orlando, and for some reason it got canceled, and they couldn't do the date. So we moved it to, I think it was Lincoln, Nebraska. And in Lincoln or Omaha, and we sold, I think, 11,000 tickets in 24 hours. And so we did the tour, and we finally got back to Orlando, and it was the worst numbers we ever did. So if we'd have started off in Orlando, Blue Collar may never have gotten off the ground.
Well, you have 4 of the funniest comedians, arguably, in my opinion, of all time. I mean, you saw the birth of you saw the birth of Larry the Cable Guy. I mean, he wasn't unknown, but nobody really knew who he was. And then all of a sudden, Larry the Cable Guy became one of these instant celebrities. Like, he's a legend in comedy now. With that said, you had Juan White, you had Bill Engvall, you had Jeff Foxworthy, who was a legend all by himself.
Yeah.
Can you tell us any funny stories that happened backstage with you four?
Yeah. One night, Larry and I, we were always trying to bust on each other. And so we were doing the show, and Jeff at the time was closing it out. And so while Jeff was on, we ran it was in Boston, I think it was. We ran next door to this Radio Shack that was there and bought a remote controlled truck and filled the bed of it with cube cheese that was on our table in the back. And we ran it out on stage and circled it around Jeff's feet about 3 times and then ran it off. He never blinked, man. He never even acknowledged it. That was the funny part. We thought we had this great prank, and he busted us.
Man, that's hilarious. Getting back to some of your early days, how did you start out in the business of comedy, and when did you know that you actually wanted to start and be a comedian?
Oh, wow. I actually started the very first comedy show I ever did was in college, in the basement of the Student Union building. And I was a Steve Martin freak. I love Steve Martin, love George Carlin, love Richard Pryor, Bob Newhart. I was all over the map as far as who influenced me. But I dropped out of college because I discovered women in beer. And so I moved back to Dallas, and they opened up this. I was working as a DJ in a nightclub, and they opened up this comedy club down the road. And by the way, my DJing involved the phrase "Gentlemen, get out your wallets. Here comes Cheyenne." So it wasn't like a legit. I guess it was legit. So one night, the doorman, who's a friend of mine, came to me and said, "Hey, we're going down to this comedy club. You want to go?" And I used to do stuff in between songs, and so we went down just to watch. And a few rounds of liquid encouragement went through us, and they talked me into going on stage. And I didn't have any material. I just talked about being a DJ, and all of a sudden these people were laughing, and I thought, wow, this is kind of cool. But I never thought this would be what I would be doing for the rest of my life. But I kept learning from the best. I learned from Leno, Seinfeld, Shandling. You go down the list of those guys, and I learned how to craft a joke and how to work an audience, and look back, and now it's been 40 years. But I don't think, to be honest with you, Stingray, I don't know that I didn't really think this is what I was supposed to be doing until Here's Your Sign came out, when the album came out. And then I realized this is something I could do for the rest of my life.
Well, what did you want to do before you got into comedy? What was your track then? Oh,
I wanted to be a professional baseball player. Okay. But I missed, thank you, dear. I'm missing 2 things. I couldn't hit the long ball, and I couldn't hit the fastball. So that kind of X'd me out of that one real quick. But, when my wife and I moved to LA, I thought, well, I wanted to be an actor. I always wanted to be an actor. I'd watch John Wayne movies and, with my dad at the drive-in. But I was so stupid. When we moved to LA, I thought if you wanted to be an actor, you just called yourself an actor. You didn't have to go to any kind of craft school or learn how to do it. And funny story, my wife and I moved out to LA. She was 8 months pregnant. And I got my first audition. I said, hey, read this with me real quick. And she did. And I said, I got it. I'm good. And I found out later that she said after I left the house, she went out on the back porch and just started crying. And I said, why'd you start crying? She goes, because I was 8 months pregnant. We were renting a house we couldn't afford. I missed my family, and you couldn't act your way out of a paper bag. So in her little sweet way, she got me to go on, take some acting lessons, and at least get a little better than the paper bag.
Well, I know you probably get asked this a lot, but forgive me, I've got to ask. What is your favorite Here's Your Sign joke to tell, and can you do it for us?
Wow, that's I guess my favorite one is was probably the first one I ever did, and it was basically a true story. That I had flown into Dallas, and my parents lived down in Temple, Texas, and I wanted to go see them, so I rented a car to drive down there and visit with them, and then I'd drive back up and fly out. And I was driving, and I had a flat tire, and I pulled the car into the gas station in this little town. I think it was Weatherford at the time. And this guy walks out. He's got the overalls on, the grease on him. And he looks at my tires, and he looked at me, and he said, "Tire go flat?" And I looked at him, and I just said, "No, I was driving around, those other three just swelled right up on me." And without missing a beat, he goes, "Well, the heat will do that." I said, "Well, here's your sign. There you go."
Yeah.
Hey, you are so funny. And I'm not saying that because you're here and I want to suck up to you. But
I got nothing to offer you.
But last night I was watching. Wife and kids went to bed, and I was like, "Well, I need to watch something on TV." And so I turned on Amazon Prime, and I rented the movie The Neighbor. And yeah, hey, you say what you want. It was a good movie.
I loved it. I love The Neighbor.
Yeah, how did you? I loved it too. I was surprised because when you think of, my choices when picking a Bill Engvall movie was like Perflix, the movie you did with Larry the Cable Guy, and then this, thriller that you're killing people. How hard was it to transition to go from "here's your sign" to, I'm gonna bash this guy over the head with a gun? I mean, how hard was it as an actor? How hard was a transition for you to do that?
Okay, Joe, as scary as this is, it was so easy. I mean, it was like I slid into being because I always wanted to be a bad guy. And I honestly think to do a really good bad guy, you've got to be able to do comedy. Because the comedy also comes from a lot of dark places for a lot of guys. But I got a call from Marcus Dunstan, the director. He was also the guy who wrote Saw 3. And he said, "Hey, I want you to play this guy who kidnaps and kills people." And I said, "Wait," I said, "You know who I am, right? I'm the goofy, here's your sign guy, the dad that, well, I don't know why the lawnmower cut my fingers off, And he said, "Yeah." He said, "That's exactly what I want." He said, "I want, when you come on screen, I want people to think, oh, here's going to be the funny part. And then you blow some guy's head off with a shotgun." And I said, "Okay." And so I was so excited, but I was so nervous, Joe, because I was playing opposite guys that this is what they do for a living. I mean, one of the guys, Josh Stewart's on Criminal Minds. He's done all these other ones. And there was another guy I'm having at 6:30 in the morning. Remember, but they were seasoned, seasoned bad guys. So what I did was I kind of gave my character a backstory, and then I just kind of watched. I've always been a visual learner. I just kind of watched these other cats to see how they functioned in a scene and all that. And by the end of the movie, one of the greatest compliments I came up was Josh Stewart said, he said, "Great job, man. That was a great job." And but I loved it. I want to play a bad guy again.
The thing about it is that when you was watching the movie, you was not Bill Engvall. You was not, "Here's your sign." You wasn't the funny man. You wasn't the guy talking about, making love to your wife and your dog was going, arr, arr, and you talking about she likes it. You was that badass MFer that, the character needed. And it was shocking to me to watch you, be that guy.
Well, I hope people will watch that. It got really good. Actually, I got some really good reviews in the international press because they were saying the same thing. They didn't expect it. They didn't expect me to be able to have the chops to do that. And I would love to do it again if we can ever get COVID out of the way. Maybe I'll get a chance to do another one.
How about Neighbor 2?
I can't do Neighbor 2 because I died. But at least you think I died.
Yeah.
You know what? I tell you the thing. What I liked about it the most, Joe, is it wasn't a slasher film. It was like a thriller. Like is this guy going to get caught? Is he going to kill him? And that's what I like, movies where there's that unknown factor. This slasher thing, okay, I get it, but I love movies that they're like I said, it's the kind of the thriller.
Well, what is next for Bill Engvall after the Last Man Standing episode airs? Like, are you going to do more stand-up comedies, another stand-up special? I mean, what's next on your agenda?
Stingray, I think Bill Engvall on ice. I think that would be wonderful. No, it was, Steve, that's a great question. And I've thought about it because I have been so fortunate to achieve every goal I've ever set in front of myself. And I don't know what's next. I hope that I'll still be able to continue to do stand-up. I hope the COVID thing gets out of the way. So it's sad because when people need laughter the most, we can't do it for them. Right. My friends go, well, just do a stand-up routine on Zoom. I'm like, it doesn't work. It's not the same.
Right.
So I'm sure I'll be doing some stand-up. Hopefully, I tell you what my dream would be is to maybe get like a part like Reverend Paul on a show where you're kind of reoccurring. You don't have to be there every week because I'm getting older and it's getting a little tougher to get on the merry-go-round and keep reaching for that brass ring. And I also got a granddaughter now, and so I want to spend time there. But, I'm just going to kind of let life play out in front of me and Stingray and see what happens.
Well, you talked earlier about you are a Texas fan, so I've got a football question for you. How do you think Steve Sarkisian is going to do there in Austin, and are you excited about the hire?
Yeah. Wow. Because I really liked the last guy they had, but,
Right.
I guess my problem, Steve, Stingray, is that I don't see how 3 years is long enough for someone to really work a program. When you talk about you're dealing with the previous guys' recruits. The short answer to your question, I think Steve will be great. Mm-hmm. I think Sarkisian is a great coach. Obviously proved at Alabama, proved himself there. I'm sure it can be easy. You got to be on your toes all the time at Alabama.
Yes.
But I think what he's got to do, the first thing he's got to do is he's got to win the Big 12. Mm-hmm. And then the next step is going to be he's got to get them into the playoffs. And if he can't do that in 3 years, I worry that. And the thing is, I don't blame the coaches. I worry that Texas has become too much of we won a national championship right now. It's like, well, it don't just happen that way, because I got news for you. As much I'd love to have Texas in the playoffs against Alabama, it would have been men versus boys.
Yes.
I am so impressed with Saban that, although I got to tell you, I had a favorite Saban moment because I knew I was waiting for it. And now with this COVID thing, they were playing, I think it was the first round. And it was at halftime when they have to talk to the reporters. And they made him put on those headphones and they weren't working. And you could see him. He goes, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. And the girl's literally 6 feet away from him. I'm like, and I was like, because I've said it all along. I go, these coaches hate to be interviewed on their way to they're trying to figure out how to get their team to do this and this. And there's some little reporter. So, coach, what do you think it's going to take to win this game? We need to score more points. Thank you very much. Bye. It was great. I hope he's great. I hope he does good. I love Texas. I got, the Longhorns and the Cowboys since I was a kid have been my two teams, and so and actually I picked the Buffalo Bills this year, but they came close, but didn't.
Well, I picked the Falcons, but that's
Falcons, man. What the Falcons? They gave the Cowboys one of their only. What is it? 3 victories?
The Falcons is a big disappointment. I mean, look, I'm a Falcons fan. I've been a Falcons fan all my life. Alabama and the Falcons has been my, since I was a boy, that's been my two.
I think the Falcons are a really good team.
Oh,
they just need to work on their onside kick drills. That's all.
They need to work on something, but you know, you made a statement saying, winning a championship doesn't just happen overnight. You know,
Right.
and Alabama fans get kind of spoiled. You know, we forget that, we went years with no championships. We
Yeah.
went years on probation. We went years, not winning against Auburn, and now all of a sudden we get this god of a man called Nick Saban, and we think we've been here forever. And we haven't. But we're blessed to have Nick Saban, and
Oh man, I was hoping Texas would go after him.
you know how I feel. This is how stupid I am. I wanted Rich Rodriguez.
He's a good coach.
But he's not a Nick Saban.
Now, but you bring up a great point though, Joe. It'll be interesting to watch the Bama fans when they go 5 and when they don't go 13-0. It's going to happen because these kids move on.
It's going to happen real soon. Nick Saban, I don't think it's going to happen under Nick Saban's watch by no means, but it's going to happen. Nick Saban's only getting older, and these fans that you see up in New York and Washington and Nebraska and all these Alabama fans, you're going to see everybody. It's going to be a time where look at Miami. Miami was the top of the mountain, and now they haven't seen a national championship in close to 30 years.
Well, I will tell Bama fans, be ready, because when this time comes, people are going to pounce on you like a dog on meat. Just because they, like when the Cowboys had those 5 years with Jimmy Johnson and we won 3 Super Bowls, and we were, oh yeah, how about them Cowboys? All of a sudden we started sucking it, man. Everybody's like, look at Stephen A. Smith. He rides us like a rented mule, man. I'm telling you.
I think the Cowboys had they had an owner that wanted to play GM, and he didn't leave it up to. But
you can't fire an owner either.
Huh?
You can't fire an owner.
No, you can't fire an owner. But he's got 3 championship rings on his belt. I don't know if he was not the owner during the 70s and early 80s, was he?
No, that was Tex Schramm.
Okay. I got 2 more questions, and
okay.
And Stingray's gonna close us out with 2 other more questions. You're from Alabama. Here's your sign right here. You're from Alabama. 2 other more questions. Only in Alabama. What's your relationship now with Juan White, Larry DeCabo guy, and of course the legend Jeff Foxworthy?
We all still stay in touch. Obviously locale makes it kind of difficult for us to actually be physically together, but I'll call them, or I get a text from Ron or whatever. We've maintained that friendship, and we always wish the other one best, and but we're like 4 brothers. It's like we love each other, but there's competition. If somebody's doing something, you want to be doing it too. And but yeah, we stay in touch. We call every once in a while, on the holidays or whatever.
They recently on Showtime had a documentary called The Comedy Store. It was a 5-part series when you had a bunch of legends, and I noticed that you was talking about Jay Leno, and you was working with a lot of people like Tim Allen. Did you what was what was your favorite comedy store? Well, what was your favorite comedy club that you got to work in? And 2, did you have any memories of the Comedy Store?
I think my favorite comedy club to work was in Columbus, Ohio, the Funny Bone. The shows were just always packed and just such a fun time. Although you ended up in rehab after the week was over because those people love to drink in Ohio. And as far as reference to the Comedy Store, I've been in there. But the problem was when I was coming up during that time, there was a huge battle between the Improv and the Comedy Store, and you had to pick one or the other. And I picked the Improv just because I had friends that were there. But I went up at the Comedy Store a couple of times, and it was always, the thing that's great about these places is not even the show. It's that you're sitting in the back of the room and you look down the wall, and there's all these, what I considered legends of comedy, guys that just I emulated and was respected. But I would say tell you one of my favorite stories that happened in LA was it was like a Wednesday night. And it was at the Improv. And there was maybe, I swear to you, I'm not making this number, there may have been 8 people in the club. So they had it curtained off so it didn't look so bad. And I was in the middle of my set, and the doorman came and starts pushing the curtain open, and it had those metal rings. Went, clack, 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 clack. And I'm like, what the hell, dude? And he goes, sorry, man, Mike Tyson's group's coming in. Mike Tyson and his entourage came in. And I thought, boy, this just sums up show, but it doesn't matter. There's a guy doing his show. Mike Tyson's in the room. We got to put him on here. Give him a front table. So Mike Tyson got settled and actually found me very funny. So
my last question for you is this. I left something out when I introduced you. You also have a podcast called My 2 Cents. Tell us a little bit about that podcast, please, and where we can listen to it.
My 2 cents, I've kind of I've gone on hiatus with it for a little bit, just because it's as you guys well know, doing a podcast is full time. You can't dabble in podcasts. But I really enjoyed it, and I want to bring it back because it was. But the other problem is maybe we had a good following, but it was just kind of my view on anything. It didn't have a specific angle, and so I think when I redo it, I might make it a little more specific. But I really enjoy podcasts. In fact, it's funny. Whenever I'm driving, I listen to podcasts all the time, just because it's my new book. Reading a book. But yeah, hopefully one of these days, real soon, I'll be bringing that back.
And can you go on ahead and tell people one more time when your episode on Last Man Standing is airing?
I believe it's February 11th is the date. I think it's is that a Thursday? I'm not sure. But yes. It'll be on Fox, and just tune in whatever your local channel is and local time, and enjoy the show. It's been great.
Well, man, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join us. We hope that you have enjoyed being here with us on the CTS interview room. And if you would like to see more, you can feel free to tune in next week. Joey, I'm going to turn it over to you to send us out.
This obviously was an honor. It was a privilege. I'm humbled to have the great Bill Engvall on the show. I'm honored that you consider yourself part of the CTS family. Whenever you want to come back on, hey, we will stalk you.
Hey, you better be careful, man. I'm like old in-laws. Bad fish. That smell don't go away. So be careful.
But hey, man, it was truly an honor. It was a privilege. It's an honor and a privilege to get to hang out with Stingray. Everybody else, I wanted to tell you what, catch the Sunday interview. It happens on every Sunday. We got cool guests coming on. We got the Marvin Constance show. Stingray does his thing on Facebook. We got Raphael on the top 10. With that said, everybody else, Bill, stay on the line. Everybody else. Oh, one more thing. Stingray, tell everybody about what's coming on your network.
Oh, yeah. I've got my own show called The Stingray Show. And we interview former football players and college football analysts. You can find that on the Facebook page, The Stingray Show. And who knows, you may actually see Mr. Bill Engvall on there talking about his Texas Longhorns. And with that said, Bill, you got anything else you want to plug?
Nope, I'm good, man.
We're all plugging everything. You're good?
Yep.
Okay, with that said, everybody else, we'll see you next time. Bill, stay on the line. Everybody else, hey, it was a pleasure.